VP PR of the club, and with his help, we are getting the opportunity to strengthen the social media presence of the club. He's just a college student studying mechanical engineering at BMS. Please let me welcome the speaker, Mr. Varun Dev.
Today I'm going to be presenting the proposal. So after my session, there's going to be a question and answer session for 3 to 5 minutes. I request all of you to ask me questions or doubts which you may have. Timer, please start. Exactly 15 days back, to be specific, on February 25th, I was coming back home from college, and to my right, I saw a cafe. Now this cafe wasn't like a Starbucks or a cafe coffee day, which we normally see around the road. This place was a rundown, which had nobody inside. But I went inside, I started snooping around. The place looked absolutely fine. It was a little dirty, but it would be clean. The only person I met was a watchman who was sitting at the corner of the building sleeping with his mouth wide open. So I went close to him and asked him, what is this place all about and why did it shut down? He said there was not enough business, so they went under a loss and they eventually had to shut down. The very next day after college, I go meet the owner of the place. I give him a proposal, I share an idea with him, and he absolutely loved it. Toastmasters, yes, good evening.
Good evening.
The proposal I gave him is to start a mini library. Now, the community which I am living in is what made me right now, what I am today. I wanted to give back to the society, I wanted to do something for the society. And the best way which I felt that I could share something, share my knowledge with the society and do something was to start a library. Because personally, when I was a kid, I felt that I didn't have a place to study. Whether there was some construction work going on at home or there was some commotion going on at home, and I wanted to get out and study or even read a couple of books in my spare time. So I felt this is a very good place for kids to come and read books. Next slide. How many of you have the habit of reading books? Awesome, most of you. Now, for those of you who want to develop this habit of reading books, this statement is apt because it tells you where you're going. It says, the more that you read, the more things that you will know. The more that you learn, the more places you go. This was said by Dr. Seuss. Who's Dr. Seuss? He's an American author. He writes children's books, and I felt this statement is apt even when I'm selecting a book from the shelf. Next slide, please. So when I started off my library, I had set objectives for myself. And there were 3 distinct objectives. Number 1, get 500 books within the next 3 months after the launch date. Number 2, get the community involved. Number 3, increase membership by 200% by the end of summer. So once my objectives were set, I took it part by part. The first thing, get more books. How do I do this? So I went ahead. Initially, I had the personal touch. I went to each person's house, asked if they could donate books. Initially, they were hesitant. I started off with 10 books. But then, in the past 1 year, I've learned so much from Toastmasters, and one of them was to use technology and how to make posters. So what I did, I made a few posters, I made flyers, and I put up on WhatsApp. Next slide, please. This was the poster I made and I shared around the colony. And do you know what? 15 days have passed, and right now I'm at 250 plus books. So I've already reached my halfway mark, and I believe I'll reach more than 500 by the end of 3 months. The next one, could you go to the previous slide, please? The next one is to get the community involved. Now this is a really hard step. How to get people involved? The problem is when you go to a person and you ask him if they would like to join my library or they would like to be a part of this, they would say it can't be done. The community, there are different walks of life, there are different people involved. What I said was, instead of tackling the old people at the moment, the parents, tackle the children. They're like a free marketing agency. What they do is I put a couple of comic books and children's books in there. So children came along and they started reading and they borrowed books and went back home. And what they did was they couldn't stop talking about the library at home. So I got the parents involved through this method. The next thing was to increase membership by 200% by the end of summer. Now, what does a library need? most probably what does any initiative need? It needs the vitamin M, that's money. So what happened was, we need to get money to run the library. And the best way to do this is to charge a membership fee. But initially to do that, that's pretty hard. You can't just ask somebody to give you some money. So what I did was, the next few days, after 10 days, after I'd seen some progress in the library, I drafted an email with all the achievements of my library. And I put it in order. I sent a formal invite to all the members, all the community members, and what they did was, the response was amazing. People donated bookshelves, people donated books, and they gave immense support. And I'm even planning to charge them a membership fee right now. Next slide, please. The next one. Now, this is your take-home message for today. Start your library today. Number 1, collecting and organizing. How are you going to do this? For example, most of you Toastmasters here today would be receiving this Toastmasters magazine, which you receive once a month. Now, for those of you who are over here for more than a year, you would have a big pile of those magazines. Now, you already collected these. Now, this would help you in your next speech or even your next role which you're going to take up. Now, similarly, some of you may be interested in sports, some of you in comics. So what I suggest is you start your own, maybe a comic book library. You start your magazines library if you're interested in magazines. You could do it right at your work, at your home. And this is the best way to get your organizing habit into place. The next one, get people involved and bring a sense of ownership. Now, getting people involved is a pretty hard task. But if you instill the ownership in them, that they own the place, that would take your initiative to the next level. What I feel was, initially when I started my library, I didn't have anybody to support me. Even the teenagers around my colony, they said, this can't be done, you cannot do this. But then once they saw some progress, they came. And I even have a teenager as a librarian of my library, of our library. What next? Next is to implement your action plan. Now, the main important thing is to have objectives and then plan. Plan each and everything. Plan from the first step to the last. And then finally, when you get everything ready, ask for opinions. Will this plan work? Because some people give you different ways of how to tackle this. And I feel that once your plan is made, you can implement it. Next slide, please. Finally, you just need 3 things. Number 1, books. You need a magazine. You can either have novels, newsletters, or comics. Now, there are a lot of people have different interests, correct? Some people, you may have a home library. Home library involves maybe your family members, your family's interests. You can have cookbooks. If you go to your office, you could have an office library where you will have books pertaining to your particular industry. For example, you are a journalist, so you will have journalism books. If you are an industrialist, you will have books related to your industry. You could have comics. Now, comics is my favorite, and I one day want to achieve the biggest comic book library in my part of the city. Next, people. Get them involved, ask for their opinions, and spread the word. People are very important because the only way that your library or your initiative will grow is to gain the people's vote, the audience's, people's connect. So more number of people coming in your library will absolutely help your library. And you could spread the word by mouth, or even people talking to each other, talking about your library would come and help. Next, action. Exactly what I said. Plan, and then finally implement. Right now, I would like to ask if any of you have any questions regarding this, regarding how to start a library. Yes, Rajiv.
I have 2 questions here. One, your library, when you collect the books, right? Is there any criteria for which you, what are you going to collect? Is everything which a person gives, or are you going to scrutinize what's going to be given to you?
Okay. Right now, what I did personally in my library was, there were different people who were giving different kinds of books. So there was this one lady who came up to me and she wanted to donate philosophical books. Now I felt there were a lot of old people around my community and philosophical books. There were a lot of old people in my community and they would like to read this. So it depends on who your audience is. So who's your
audience?
Oh, my audience is a mix.
When you mentioned starting the library, you said novels, newsletters, and comics. And when you're talking about now, you're telling us philosophy, so that's a little confusing.
Yeah, so when you have a community library, there are different people, different age groups, and you'll have to tackle all of them. So in my community library, I have different varieties of books. I have comics, I have novels, I have books for children, I have books for adults.
And this is all based on donation.
All based on donation at the moment.
Okay. And second thing is, you told your librarian is a teenager.
Yeah.
So what is the credibility of a teenager being a librarian? Because what will happen is when she has exams, she'll go off, or when he has exams, he'll go off. How do you sustain a library on the basis of an employee who's just doing voluntary service with that?
This was my perspective. So in my community, I felt a teenager would be appropriate. And I also felt that my library would also be open only between certain periods of time, from 5:30 to 6:30.
Okay.
Either she stays as a librarian over there, or I'm there to replace her at that moment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, you did a fantastic presentation. Just these two queries. Don't mind it.
Yeah, sure. Cheryl?
Varun, terrific proposal. My question is, the pictures that you had
Yeah.
in your slide,
Yeah.
were they pictures from your library?
Yes, exactly. Those are pictures from my library. So
All of them?
all of them. So it started off with 10 books. I think in one of the things you would have seen a few books in the shelf. And in the later picture you saw many books. That's the collection I have right now.
That's terrific because it adds credibility to what you're saying. And
Thank you.
I wish you had said that.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you. Samit?
Yeah. You know, we are going the digital way, and most of the things that we access over the tabs or icons and things. So reading a book is sort of not the in thing right now. So how do you have to remember you said, or how do you think you'll be able to sustain it in the future?
Okay. What I feel, people and books, they have certain kind of a bond. If you ask people over here in the audience, they would say that their favorite book is this, and their favorite book is this, and that may be their most prized possession. I feel that touch will never go back, that touch will never go. Even though a lot of people are going through a digital library, right now, I felt that the community, what my presentation and what I'm talking about is a library where people can meet, and so people can sit and they could study, and they have their own private space. So a library will never go away like this. Maybe you can have a tablet or a Kindle in the library, but I felt a library is a apt place because you don't know where else to go to spend that few moments of time, few hours of time. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm not sure I didn't anticipate it. How you convinced about the membership?
Oh, okay.
And,
Okay. So what I gave supporting facts. Now there were, so I started off the library with 10 books, and then I went on right now to 250 books, and they saw the progress. I felt that as the number of books increased and as the participation also increased, that I could charge them some more money to improve the quality of the library. So that's what I mentioned in the community meeting. So that's how I proposed.
What about the space and location?
Oh, space, okay. The space and allocation, sorry, I'll get back to you on this right now.